Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and it is show number 249. Happy to be live here on Facebook, proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, wherever you are taking in your podcasts, iTunes, wherever you are. Grateful you are with us, and thank you for joining. If you're watching live, jump into the show, leave us a comment. If you're watching it afterwards, leave Mark and I a comment or a question. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. Show number 249, a quick commercial before we get to the show. It is almost Father's Day. Dads, Leaders, and Father Figures. It's my latest book, written with my buddies, Kevin Spanauer, Larry Dake, and Jeff Evner. It is a book for fathers. It's a book for leaders. It's a book for educators. It is a book for men that are looking to grow, looking to improve themselves, and certainly celebrate being a dad, leader, and a father figure. The ups and the downs. And we are going to speak to today's guests about some of those ups and downs, about some of the things he is doing. Mark Erlenwein from Staten Island Tech, the award-winning high school, the nationally ranked high school, as well as the 2022 Principal of the Year. So we're going to meet Mark in a little bit, and he's got a great story about his last name. That was great, Mark. All right. We are on the doorstep of summer here in New York. Many of you around the country have already ended your school year, but here in New York, we've got about one more week. We don't count the days. We make the days count. Regents exams going on. Mark's got his prom coming up, and then certainly graduation coming up. So my challenge to you, my question to you, all those listening, are you going into summer? Are you just kind of getting to that finish line and going into the summer? Are you dying to get to the summer? Or are you growing into your summer? Do you have your goals laid out? Do you have things that you want to accomplish that you could look back on September 1st and say, I'm glad I did? And what are those things in your life? What are they? So if you haven't written them down, you haven't thought about them yet, you're just so bogged down with all the things at school, I would ask you to take 10, 15 minutes and think about how you want to grow into this summer. I give credit to my friend, Dr. Rob Gilbert, for shouting that out on Success Hotline, but it got my attention that it's a great opportunity for us to learn and grow, no matter how long we've been doing these jobs and how long we've been in education. The summer is a great opportunity to grow. So I wish you the best this summer, and I wish you the best the end of your school year. Let's bring in today's guest right now, the award-winning principal from Staten Island Tech High School, Mark Erlenwein. Nice to have you on the program. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here. Great way to end the day and start the night.
Yeah, you're going into the second half. You got night events there. Mark, you are a Staten Island techie through and through. You went to school there.
Yeah.
You worked there in some different roles, and now you are the award-winning principal there. How are you right now at this time of the year as you were on the doorstep of your summer break?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. It's been I can only speak for myself and my team here, and we had an incredible year. We really had. It felt good to be back completely, wholly. Last year was, I think, like an abbreviated version of what we normally do. But this year, everything was back. And once in New York, we were finally able to allow parents back into our buildings without all of the COVID requirements. It really began to feel like a school again. So I just feel so good and energized, and that we're landing in the right spot, and psyched to get into the summer. Right? Really, no regrets about the school year. And we're on the heels of a new teacher's contract. So I'm in New York, so I'm eager to figure that out with my team and my chapter chairperson, and figure out what we're going to do in the fall.
Excellent. Mark, how are you going to grow into the summer?
So I was very fortunate over the past couple of years. Back in 2018, I was accepted into the Kahn Fellowship at Columbia University, which was a remarkably incredible experience. I like to call it like the top shelf of professional development for principals because it serves principals nationally. So you get to meet some really talented, gifted leaders, like-minded. A lot of these people go on to be superintendents, chancellors, and such. So you're really getting an experience that you really can't find too many other places. So I one of my buddies who I did this program with years ago started something called the Gray Fellowship with Hunter College. And a Gray Fellowship is another type of experience for principals that brings principals together just from New York City. And you start the summer off in Honors Haven in upstate New York in the Catskills for a 1-week retreat. Yep. And you're doing a lot of growth, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of decompressing, a lot of mindfulness meditation. And you're picking one project or one thing in your practice of leadership that you want to grow and work upon by sort of just deconstructing yourself first, building yourself back up with like-minded leaders who are looking to do the same. So I'm really psyched about that. I'm going to be spending 2 weeks in July doing that work, and then it continues for the whole year. So pretty stoked.
Yeah, that's incredible. And Mark, do you think that has led you down the path to becoming the 2022 Principal of the Year? Has this practice for the last 4 or 5 years helped you? Do you think that was part of you winning this award?
I think you have to find the time and the space if you're not going to give it to yourself to create that pause. When I did the Kahn Fellowship, it was literally designed into the plan, which I think is why it's so popular and so effective. The idea of self-care, I'm a byproduct of the school that I now run. This is a school of high achievers, perfectionists. We know that we're geeks, we're nerds, we're cool with that. It's all right. But knowing when to say no, knowing when to stop, knowing when to pause, knowing when to take care of yourself is not innately in all of our tool chests. So these types of programs have really contributed to creating that pause to make sure we're taking care of ourselves so we can be our best selves and grow. So I think that's the secret in the sauce to these types of programs that help develop principles. But it definitely contributed. But I always speak to my team. The award is wonderful, but I look at leadership. I've replaced that word with weedership. We're doing it together. It hits differently when you present yourself that way and lead that way, I feel.
Well, not only are you the award-winning principal, sharing the wealth with your team, obviously the results are in the school. I grew up in Staten Island. We talked a little bit about that, and I always knew Staten Island Tech was a great school. I did not know it was ranked 5th nationally and 2nd in New York State and New York City. Kudos to you and your group there, Mark. An award-winning principal and an award-winning school. Do you feel pressure, Mark, when you hear those numbers? You just talked about self-care and self-reflection.
Yeah.
You feel pressure with those numbers?
So about 5 or 7 years ago, I stopped acknowledging those numbers because one of the things when I became principal back in 2013, I myself hit the wall by month 3 in November. I found myself in an emergency room at the Heart Institute at Staten Island University Hospital.
Whoa.
And the next morning when I awoke, I had my glasses off and everything's blurry as it is now. And I'm surrounded by a bunch of coats, white and blue coats. Put my glasses on, start recognizing the faces of all these people around me, start reading their name tags. And they were all my former students.
Wow.
Boom, I remembered each one of their stories, all the healthy and unhealthy things that they did to get to that point, to become doctors, nurses, whatever role they were, radiologists. And it was at that moment I kind of told myself that this has got to change. Like, I ended up in the hospital because I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to do everything at the highest level, do it the best I can. But beyond that, and here I am at 39 years old, still making the same mistakes that sometimes our kids make, or the unhealthy choices and sacrifices to achieve a goal, that maybe there's a better way. So is at that point that I realized, you know what, our kids are chasing points. While our statistics were some of the best in the country, if you look behind the scenes at the social emotional impact on our kids, my opinion, it was horrific. It was scary. There was a lot of suicidal ideations, a lot of, the kids weren't taking care of themselves. And educators, and not our fault as a school system, but like, I don't think the school system always thinks about sometimes the impact of what grades do. What is the best way to assess students? So long story short, we got rid of traditional grades. We went to letter grades. We went to mastery-based assessment. We really emphasized not making grades, not allowing students to think that grades define them. So I made a promise once we started this journey together, my team, my faculty, and my staff and I, which is inclusive of the students and the parents, that no matter how well we did nationally, every time this ranking came out, I'm sorry, but I'm going to no sell it. Because if I'm going to be telling kids that this is not important, this doesn't define us, I have to live that. I have to practice that. So I'm sure a lot of this stuff has happened again. I just don't pay attention to it anymore because I want to be true to my word. I'm telling kids it's all right to fail. It's all right to mess up. It's all right to make a mistake. We got rid of valedictorian. One of the things I'm really happy about at graduation is the first time we're not going to be celebrating in 35 years of our school's existence valedictorian and salutatorian, because it makes no sense. We're celebrating 2 kids while there's probably 40 or 50 other kids who have a fraction of a point difference that we should be celebrating too. So why are we celebrating just those 2? And we did a whole completely different process this year, a blind process. Every kid had an opportunity to submit a speech to be the commencement speaker, and we boiled it down to 2. So the commencement speakers this year are not necessarily going to be the students who have the top averages, but can speak to the experience of being a Staten Island Tech student most authentically and heartfelt. So
kudos to you, Mark. That was amazing. I did not know that. What a great story, and you leading the way there. That was tremendous. Mark, there's so much turmoil right now. There's so much kind of negativity around education. People are leaving the field of education. It's hard to find teachers. But you and your school, specifically you, really seem to be thriving. What are some things that you're doing to take care of yourself? What are some things that you are doing so you're not in that hospital room once again?
As yourself, Andrew is also very fluent in social media. We serve a couple of different roles, many roles as principals, right? One of them is storyteller in chief. If you don't tell your story, someone's going to tell it for you. But I think the more important role as a leader and in leadership is the listener in chief. So I do spend a lot of time cultivating student voice and agency by doing I do a lot of focus groups. I employ Peter Senge's compassionate systems thinking tools. I use a systems thinking iceberg to meet with students to identify challenges. But versus turning it into a gripe session, this system that he teaches us how to use makes the student own what they're griping. Like what are the artifacts that we can change and tweak to make the problem go away or improve it? What are the mental models on the student's part that we need to, there's always a trigger. So by spending a lot of time listening to students, the parents, especially our faculty and staff, and humanizing the approach, like I keep on speaking from the standpoint of school is often thought of as very punitive when it could be unitive, right? And the way you change that is in terms of how you present yourself and how you engage. So one of the things I did many years ago, because I felt disconnected from the faculty and staff, being on the second floor in this really nice what was always the principal's office. I moved my office to the general office in this tiny galley, kind of like a closet or something. So my view into the main office allows me to see every person that walks in this building, and allows me to have an interaction with each person each day. So kind of like getting an idea what the climate's going to be that day. Like where are people at? Like, what could I do to influence that? And I go out of my way to make like you could probably tell just by very ornate. This looks more like a toy store than an office. But my main office is decorated throughout the year, like with whatever the holiday happens to be. Like it's Pride Month, so we're making sure, we're doing things in the school always to make all of our communities and people feel welcomed and acknowledged. So doing that in the first place that our teachers are going to walk in each day, to make it a happy moment, make it a funny moment, to make it a moment, increases the probability that the kids are going to be on the benefactor of that outcome, right? So there's more social, emotional, and culture influence, I think, that translates to success in the classroom than we realize sometimes, right? So I spent a lot of time on that, I have to admit, just making sure people feel like they're being heard and taken care of. I don't, I succumb to putting a blazer on certain occasions, but I'm a black jeans. I agree with Steve Jobs and those people out there who have one suit, one outfit, the black polo and black jeans. I want the kids to feel like I'm approachable, right? The three-piece suit days, not that there's anything wrong with it, but I've seen a difference in how I can interact with kids if I don't necessarily look like that archetype principal. I think I'm just always overthinking, maybe, like where do we best connect with kids? What drives them? What triggers them in the best way? So that's what I attribute to where things have gone really right. And just being honest with how people feel about certain things.
Yeah. Mark, this is great. I'm learning so much, and kudos to you and your team for doing that, and your mindset of being in with the kids, dressing to be approachable. Those are great things. Mark, how about outside of school? We talked a little bit about it's all encompassing. It's a lot. When you do get away, when you do separate, what are those things that you do to recharge and get going with your batteries?
Yeah, I'm a creative person, so I've been playing music, writing music my whole life. So you talk about finding the time. So I have this immense collection of music that I've always wanted to release. So I released an album on January 4th. It's on Apple, it's on YouTube, it's on Amazon, it's quite easier now in 2023 to master an album, produce it, package it, distribute it, than it was 10 years ago when I might have done this as well. So I enjoy that. I enjoy doing that. My other guilty pleasure is wrestling. You can see over my left shoulder here, or right shoulder, all my championship replica belts. Always been, since I'm 4 years old, infatuated with WWE, back then WWF. Same is true of my son. My wife's into it. So we go to as many events as we possibly can. And those are the things that are light and fun, and I do in the time when I'm not doing this.
And next to your wrestling thing is Star Wars, Mark, and I'm a Star Wars lover as well. So if you had to compare yourself to a Star Wars character from any of the movies, who are you most like and why?
People will say Yoda, I guess.
Wow.
Yoda's the wise one, right? So it gravitates to that. And the funny part about where Star Wars aligns and marries very nicely to Staten Island Tech is the acronym for our school, Staten Island Technical High School, is SITHs. And from the Star Wars nomenclature, you have the Jedi, the good guys, and the Siths. Although some people would say the Jedi are the bad guys and the Siths were the good guys. So it's a fun thing to play off of, very natural. Although I will have to admit, on all the Star Wars days, like May the 4th, I have a Chewbacca outfit, but I'm not a very tall guy, so I look more like an Ewok in a Chewbacca outfit. As I came to learn when I viewed the pictures of me. But I remember dressing up in a Han Solo Carbonite outfit, waving at kids at the front entrance when they walked in. And I would say about 90% of them did not know who I was supposed to be. It's really amazing. This is my 24th year here, and things have changed. Like the channels we're watching and our children are watching are completely different.
Yeah. There's a lot of kids here. I'm in a middle school now. They haven't watched it. They don't know the references. I'm like, whoa, I'm officially old. Like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, no. And once again, all about culture, right? How can you impact and positively influence the culture in the school? So we always all hated the monotonous bell tone that would send you out of class and into the next. So I installed a piece of hardware and software that you could make music, change every period to bring the kids in and out of classes. And for a while, I would be the one who create that playlist. And I realized at one point, I better hand this off and train someone a lot younger than me to do this, because my music, you can only take so much Van Halen and AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne in and out of classes.
Mark, 24 years, and it really is inspiring to meet someone who is doing so well and excelling in the field of leadership and school leadership. What advice would you offer to some newer administrators that maybe just have their head above water, maybe are just feeling overwhelmed, especially this time of the year? What advice would you give them?
Yeah.
We lost him. I hope he comes back. Oh, I told him if we lose him, maybe his answer was so good that he, good, he's back. Your answer was so good. Was it to leave the field?
I don't know what happened there. So I think the best piece of advice is the team that you build. I'm a huge believer. When I say the term leadership, I really mean it. Teacher leadership, there are people in your building who are leaders, and they want to help. They want to help shape the environment and decision making. So the idea of collective efficacy and distributive leadership, that's really a big part of how I like to operate. So my big piece of advice for young leaders is build your team. Like, you can't do it alone. You shouldn't be doing it alone. And there's other people you can trust. And building, so I have best example of that I can share is, I think it's unrealistic, in my opinion, in my practice, to think that your assistant principals who are helping you run the school can also run all the professional development and do all that sort of things that you need them to do. New York City has this incredible concept of the UFT Teacher Center, where you can hire teachers as peer collaborative teachers and master teachers, and they run all to have instruction teacher-led versus always administrator-led. I think it comes down to trust. Building trust with your team and empowering them to help you lead the school. So it's never Mr. Erlenwein came up with this is his idea. No, it's our idea. We're prototyping this together. We decided together that we're doing this, and I think that, along with listening. I changed my cabinet meeting protocol this past year, where each week I have a different cabinet member run the cabinet meeting. And I just sit there. I'll try to do the least amount of talking and give the least amount of input. So that helps me make better decisions and really allows them, my team members, to be able to lean on each other and not always have to wait for Mr. Erlenwein to make the decision. So that building a team is just so important. and a team filled with all of your constituents. Everybody's voice needs to be a part of the decision-making process, whether you want to hear it or not.
That's a great answer, Mark. Let me ask you about that. So you made that decision. Was that something you heard at a conference? Was that an article you read? Was that an idea that popped in your head? Where'd you get that, and what made you say, "Yeah, I want to do that"?
I think part of it came from, I think very early on in my journey as a leader, a new school leader. I was working closely with the Apple in this special program. And the program was just really all hinged upon how do you use technology, not for the sake of using it, but as a tool to invoke positive change. And one of the things we were tasked with was to spend a lot of time. You want to improve the quality of life and the impact of your school on a student. But we assume we know what the student's experience is like. So we had to spend the day with a student, film, video, photograph every moment of their day. And then I edited it down to like a 5-minute video, played it at the faculty conference, and used that as a jumping point to have a discussion with the faculty. So what do you think? And you had every emotion. You had pride, and these kids, it was an exhausting video. It's only 5 minutes, but if you didn't feel genuinely exhausted for the children, that child whose life you were watching unravel in front of us, I don't mean that in a negative way, just play out, what were we going to do about it? So that started to really kind of impact me, that if I was going to be an effective leader, I had to really get granularly into the lives of the people who I'm serving. And that means for me, I'm not going to ask you to do something. I'm not going to ask Andrew to do something that I haven't done. So I always try to be a part of the process, prototype an idea before we go wide scale with it. So building that team comes a lot from listening to people who have ideas, want to contribute, have criticisms, don't necessarily agree with everything that I'm saying. And I think that's important, right? Is to have enough people around you to say when you're full of it and when you're hitting the mark, right?
Great answer. Mark, my theme is surviving and thriving. It's our ups and downs. It's our journey. What is your one word? What is your one action? What is your one habit, your one behavior that helps you thrive more than thrive, or bounce between the two?
Smile. The word smile. You can't not smile when you say the word smile, right? And just being compassionate. Humor helps a lot. Humor goes a long way. Don't necessarily do it on purpose. I just think it's a part of my nature to kind of see the funniness in things and to make it light. Smiling and just presenting as a human being. I'm definitely not going for, when I walk down the hallway, that you better know, or you're going to know I'm the principal. I think it's more effective if I'm almost invisible. Well, not invisible, but just you probably might not know I'm the principal if you saw me down the hallway. And I'm okay with that. Like, there's a reason for that, which is, allows me to kind of be that walking thermostat to kind of understand what's happening, why it's happening. And by doing that, I think most people, is not all, certainly for sure, feel I'm approachable, and they can say to me, this is working, this is not. And it's okay. It's okay. You're not going to hurt my feelings if it's going to make it better for someone or all, right?
I love that statement, a walk-in thermostat.
Yeah.
It says a lot there. That's a great answer. Mark, what was something that you wanted to talk about that I did not ask you?
I think the biggest thing I'm excited about has been around the idea of operationalizing the concept of failure, right? A big part of our instructional focus at Staten Island Tech has been centering around this idea of restorative assessment. When you hear the term restorative, you think of SEL, like restorative circles, restorative disciplinary practices. But this idea of, failure is an opportunity, not a final assessment or final judgment of a child. What if you apply that to how we assess kids? Because more often than not, when we plan schools and design instructions, the tremendous oversight when doing that is how we design our assessments. And most assessments in education is designed around one and done, when it could be life. In my opinion, my experience, life is one and some, right? You make mistakes, you learn, you get chances for it. But it's almost contradictory when, and we say that, right? You're probably going to say it at your commencement in a week or so. I'm going to talk about, failure is important. It's a part of the process. But I got tired one year of hearing that in many commencement speeches, but we don't do anything as education leaders to actually operationalize that. We keep on doing one and done. And we create these systems that students, ultimately wind up leaving school connecting education with the word punitive when it could have been unitive. And so that's one of the things I'm the most passionate and proud about our school. We've began operationalizing that 5 years ago by moving to mastery-based assessments. Kids know now, as long as all their homework is in, there's nothing negative or outstanding about their work not being timely or such, that if they don't do well on a test, they can ask a teacher for a reassessment, a second chance to fill that learning gap, reassess, and that grade would get replaced by the new grade. But also supporting teachers to do that. Because when you add up all the hours and extra work that costs, it's counterproductive and counterintuitive for a teacher to ever agree to that. So we hired educators to run our restorative assessment center, that when a student needs to retake an assessment, somebody else's job is to proctor that student during that reassessment. So it never falls on the shoulders of the teacher. But teachers have therein redesigned, where traditional assessment has to exist, they have that opportunity. But where it doesn't, it's been replaced by problem-based learning, project-based learning. And that is where the state's eventually going to go. I mean, believe it or not, New York State is headed in a direction that will eventually, and we hope and pray, eliminate the Regents exam in place of portfolios, project-based learning, authentic assessments that are really aligned to the real world. So that's the work we've been putting all our eggs in that basket. I like to think I got the job because I'm pretty good working with a team to figure out where we need to be in 5 years, which I think is why when the pandemic hit, we went 1-to-1 in 2013. So the pandemic transition to remote learning was seamless. We just had to get good at Zoom and Google Meet. But beyond that, the school was really ready because we were doing Google forever already. So that's where I'm putting, if I had to put my paycheck on a chip, on a board, and gamble, I'd say PBL, portfolio work, authentic assessments connected to career pathways like CTE schools do. That's what's next. So those are the big things we've been working on. I'm excited about.
You got me excited about it. This has been tremendous, Mark. You're a transformational leader, and it really is an honor to speak to you. But I know you got a busy night, so let's get to our rapid fire here. Mark,
Sure.
These are quick questions. You're a Staten Islander, so this should be no problem for you. You live this life.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Last book you read?
Visual Thinking by, forgetting her name, but Visual Thinking.
Last movie you saw?
The Naked Gun. I'm a huge Leslie Nielsen fan.
Yeah, it's great.
Love that stuff.
Favorite dish?
Pizza.
Staten Island, of course. Favorite pizzeria in Staten Island?
Oh, boy. You're not going to like my answer. You're expecting me to say Danino's, but I'm a big Justino's fan, I have to say.
Is that in New York? Where is that?
That's right at Guyan Avenue by the Oakwood train station.
I love
They
it.
make a really good barbecue chicken pizza, which I know is sacrilegious being half Italian.
Your favorite place to travel?
I love Pennsylvania.
Oh, come and see me.
Yeah, I love PA. I love going to Bucks County so much.
Yeah, beautiful. On September 1st, I will be glad that I fill in the blank.
I continue to show up and be principal. I'll be glad that I said no to some of the other opportunities I've been fortunate to be offered, because I love what I do.
Vince McMahon, hero or villain?
Once upon a time, in those, I was asked that question at a conference during one of those workshops, and who is somebody you admire? And in 2018, I said Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura. Not so much now because of the I get business genius. As a human being, I guess we all have our faults, right? So, but visionary. He's a visionary. Bottom line, he's a visionary.
Favorite wrestler of all time?
Bret Hart. Bret Hart. That's Bret Hart's belt right there. I met him about a month ago. He signed it for me. So.
Get out, really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the hair, the whole. He was always very greasy.
Whiter now. But yeah, he's still there.
Did you love the movie The Wrestler, or did you hate the movie The Wrestler, or somewhere in between?
I thought it was intriguing. I mean, I kind of follow all those journals. I'm into all the wrestling journals and the wrestling blogs. So yeah, and once you read a lot of those, you kind of get an idea what these guys and gals' lives are behind the scenes. But it's not so much like that anymore.
Yeah.
In retrospect, now in 2023, that's not the prototypical wrestler's lifestyle anymore.
Yes, it's a lot. I agree with you.
Yeah.
How often do people spell your name wrong?
Oh, constantly. I've been called Erlenstein, Erlenspiel. And as I tell, especially people from New York who grew up in Brooklyn or Staten Island, say, how do you pronounce your name? Well, I make a joke, it's first of all, it's Mark with a K, because, those Mark with a C folks, they're not the real Mark.
They're not a real Mark.
But Erlenwein, I always use the joke, how would an Italian grandmother in Bensonhurst say oil and a wine? And if you grew up in that area, Italian grandmothers don't say oil, they say Earl. Like, how would they say oil and wine? They say Earl and wine. That's my last name. That's it.
That's a great story. If a wealthy donor came to your school and offered you $10,000, what would you buy for your school, your people?
More arts. The past 13 years, I've only added the arts are always the first thing to get subtracted. And it really is the conduit to the soul and the heart for many of these kids. Many of these kids, especially here at Staten Island Tech, are quiet artists and geniuses in that fact. And for lots of reasons, as you can imagine, high achieving kids coming into a school like this, being artistic doesn't necessarily translate in some families' minds to useful time spent. So giving kids that outlet to be creative and artistic, we made a makerspace because of that here, which facilitates our project-based learning. So I dump it right back into the arts.
Great answer. Best takeaway from this show for our guests?
From me, a piece of advice?
Yeah.
Make sure you're having fun every day. Make sure what you're doing, you make it fun and enjoyable for yourself. Because as school leaders, it can go so easily sideways that you have to absolutely make it fun. And like, for example, I have a good friend of mine who's one of my colleagues, and every year on National Friends Day, Best Friends Day, I'll do some sort of gag that just lightens the day. So I joked with him. I said, "You're really lucky that I'm not a cheap guy, and I can afford theatrical barbed wire, because real barbed wire is cheaper than theatrical barbed wire." Because I wrapped his chair in theatrical barbed wire, so when he went into his office and goes to sit down, just like a funny way to start the day. But like doing things that are funny and comical, just make you laugh and smile. I think people underestimate biochemically what that does for the soul and you physiologically.
And you goes back to your surviving and thriving word, smile. Amen. Something about Mark Erlenwein that people do not know about.
I guess that
Again, maybe he didn't want to answer here. We lost him again. I don't know. This is interesting. He popped off twice, Mark, if you didn't want to answer that question about something I don't know about, you could have just told me that. Did we lose you again, Mark? Let's see if we can get him back, huh? Well, I hope we didn't lose Mark here. This has been a tremendous interview. Mark, if you can hear me, so impressed and so, really blown away about the work that Mark is doing at Staten Island Tech High School. 2022 Principal of the Year, Mark Erlenwein. Let's see if we can get him back in. I told him sometimes we get these problems. Mark, I think we lost you. We were going to wrap up with a quote from you, but I liked a couple of things you said, so I'll take something that you said here. Oh, he's back. Wow, Mark.
You want a quote? I get. So I'll. I like this quote. It's a line from a song that I recorded called "Stage Called." This is life under the shadows of the lights, and we're walking on a stage with the curtains slowly closing on us. Right. So, "Stage Call" is the name of the song. Right. So.
This is our award-winning principal from Staten Island Tech High School, Mark Erlenwein. Mark, extremely impressed. Really an honor to have you on the program. I could see why you're the award-winning principal, and I could see why that school is such an amazing place. So thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a great time.
Mark, I got your Twitter on there. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I publish once or twice a day pretty fluently.
Okay. Award-winning principal Mark Erlenwein. Mark, I look forward to that Italian restaurant called Oil and Wine Erlenwein. Best on your journey and best to you at the end of the year. And certainly, I hope you get some rest here this summer.
Same to you, Andrew.
All right. Stay on the line, Mark. We are going to tune off here on show number 249. I do wish all of our dads out there a happy Father's Day and the best you can coming down the stretch. Keep surviving and thriving, friends, and keep rolling.